going back to your sort of emissions product then. So, where do you see the product in the market at the moment? So do you see any much competition? Where's your differentiator? What makes you different? And ultimately, what is your sort of key value proposition? What's the thing that you do for schools? I'm assuming it's around the sort of saving time, saving money, enabling, allowing the missions officer, to add more value to the overall process than just basically, manually entering in things, or is it something completely different?
I think like being really, really niche is really good. So just even if we were just to look at sixth forms, schools with sixth forms, that process of enrollment day, like the headache we were just going through last week, over four years, you can only test it once a year.
Yeah.
It's like, it's match day, but match day only happens once a year. For all the love of wanting to test, run some tests, you only really learn when you're in the fire, and that has been our experience. So, and trying to add as much value in that experience for the schools, making that enrollment day is like, we're not there yet, but each year it gets a little bit better. Each year it just creeps on a little bit more. And we just are trying, and at the moment, I think we're the only ones really focused on that piece, enrollment and getting the information across into SIMS or the MIS.
I totally agree with you. I think the MIS is, they all touch on emissions, but they don't go as far as you do. They all touch on it in the sense of they're taking the ATF file, like you say, or whatever they need to do. But it's that, actually, do you know, it's well, as you know, I sort of headed up the product team for SIMS, and we always looked at the emissions scheme, and nothing new really came out of the ideas really. So that's why it's still the same for the last few years, for many years. But actually, what you've done is actually create something which I think will definitely save and add massive value to the emissions officers for sure. Good.
And I think one thing that's becoming, this is maybe sort of into the future a little bit, but that idea of it being about the parents and it being about the young person, and really collecting as much information before the child joins, almost getting as high upstream as you can, so that you're learning more about the child. So like, even pre-enrollment, they are starting to know, oh, that student is interested in music. What instruments are they interested in? Okay, so we've got these gymnasts. What provision? So this is a unique case. There's a special child here. How can we link them to some local services? If we don't offer it in our school, is there a local whatever it is, a gym? Can we then get on the phone to this child and talk to them about, okay, if you came to our school, this is the type of experience you'd have, and we'd love you to come, because not only is it a great learning environment, it's got great atmosphere, but also we can actually foster and we can develop your skills, your hobbies, your passion in this way. And we've really thought about that. And so getting that sort of view ahead actually gives schools a competitive advantage. And it shows that they are listening and they are aware of not just a timetabling, which is important, but also beyond that, the other aspects of a child's life.
Yeah.
So I think there's a huge amount more that can be done in terms of, obviously not just medical and providing safe place for children to go, but all types of services, whatever it may be, but things that can help the child pre joining the school, and help the school prepare.
Yeah, absolutely. So, almost starting them, giving them that sort of individualized, personalized sort of learning before they actually start creating that environment. That would be quite amazing.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And because it is, so the journey they go through, there's then obviously a communication piece. And so, that can be done on a basic level, obviously, but actually marketing teams and trusts can then control the communication, they can control the branding, or at least they can advise, and they can have templates and then build out marketing plans so that over the course of the time, as the students are pre-joining the school, there's a certain message that's going out once a fortnight. Parents are informed, and it obviously there's a sort of time-saving element, but there's also that sort of well-being and sort of emotional. I'm connecting to the school, and I still want my child to be going there, and I'm actually not, I'm really excited because I can see that they're really engaging with me. There's already all this stuff that they're doing for me, all this messaging, and there's also this within the system. There's a meetings area, so you can actually set up meetings, whether they be in groups, which in this world we're now living in, they can be online, blah blah blah. But it just means that all that can be arranged through the system, and so actually it's quite comforting for a parent that they're not just sort of completing a form and then expecting to arrive in September, but actually this really thorough, well thought through process of bringing them on board. Which they have the system anyway, but it's just probably on different in different areas.
But also so what you're suggesting there, and I definitely can see, I think it sounds brilliant. So also, if you're targeting that messaging to the child's needs, then obviously as a parent you are going to feel that, especially in an independent school where you are effectively paying fees, you do want to feel that your child is going to get the best education that they need, and based on their abilities and and their particular needs. So that personalized learning is going to be really, really important. But if you're then sort of suggesting along the lines of this child is great at gymnastics as an example, but all the communication going to that child or the parents is about this year we've won X number of gymnastic awards. By the way, we have this gym team that's about to go off to Corfu or something and basically compete there. I don't know if Corfu is one of the best places, but for gymnastics. But you know what I mean. So ultimately, if that sort of targeted messaging is happening, that is really, really important.
Absolutely. I've got to go to Corfu
for your gymnastics. Absolutely.
And also on that sort of engagement piece, the what schools are interested in is, okay, so what encounters or what exposure have the parents had to the school, and how much of that did that impact their decision to join from a marketing perspective. So we're running these events, we've got these virtual tours, we're sending this communication, they've met the head, but what's the impact? So actually, from like a tracking point of view, being able to see they completed an inquiry form, they attended one of our online webinars with the head teacher, they had a one-on-one session with the leadership team, the school mentors. Did they do, and all that can be tracked through the system, so that when the school come to review things, they can see, we lost them at this point. We lost them. We lost them after we made the offer. Okay, interesting. What can we do differently? Where in the funnel? Where, if it is, as you say, for independent schools particularly, if it is a sales funnel, it sounds a bit commercial, but if it is a little bit like that, then where can we sort of tighten up the screws to make sure we get more sort of over the line? Like we were saying, there's quite a lot of depth you can go into when you sort of get into the detail.
And do you use anything like machine learning or anything with the data to sort of bring out some of those trends that you may not have already noticed, or is that something that you thought about now, or is it something you might consider in the future?
Yeah, haven't considered that yet. To be honest with you, personally, I'm afraid, Nick, I'm not too knowledgeable on machine learning. But
Nor am I.
I'm, but yeah, I'm sure I don't know, to be honest. But if I'll have to be googling that after this call.
I just think it's interesting because basically what it does is it will identify new trends that you haven't considered, and ultimately that will obviously potentially benefit something like GDST as well. Where they want to ensure that every single school is maximizing on the opportunities and learning from each other. I think these
Oh,
things that you're doing already and potentially more is amazing.
well, that is one thing that we have developed is a MAT dashboard. So for a trust, if they've got multiple schools, they can start to see how many applicants, how many inquiries they've got in each of the schools. They can see those high level KPIs. They can see the reporting,
Cool.
and so they could start to make some decisions like, we're going really strong in this school, let's reallocate resource and put our marketing towards this school that could do with a little bit more help, let's say. And maybe this is further down the line, but all those templates I said that you can sort of share amongst the schools, all the forms that can be shared, that could allow the thing to be managed centrally. So yeah, no, it's interesting.
Oh, that's an interesting point. So, can you see schools doing emissions more centrally in maths?
Well, I think I would have thought it's the tension between the individual schools and the mats, and the freedom that schools obviously want to express, and then obviously that relationship between central office and so. But yeah, I don't see why, if both groups agreed, if they both thought it was a good idea, that it could be managed centrally. I mean, on an individual school basis, the sixth form admissions used to be separate from the year 7 admissions, but we're seeing those become one admissions officer, who's managing both. So yeah, I don't know. It's yeah, the dynamics are probably maybe a little bit different. But yeah, I don't see why it couldn't be. Yeah,
that's interesting.
And that interface between what we're also seeing is marketing, and this is in the independent sector maybe more so, but the marketing teams being separate from admissions. And now and more so they're really working very much hand in glove, sort of together. So
yeah, interesting for sure. You can easily see it going more centralized because it doesn't really matter in some ways, as long as you've got an online system like yourself. so in some ways it probably doesn't matter so much, but it's quite interesting the way that, potentially technology sometimes changes the way that people, in schools and establishments work, which this might do. In relation to going back to the sort of the MIS then, so there's lots of things that you just explained why, it's more niche, it's different to the MIS. Do you see that you always will be ahead of the approach because, you are focusing on this niche area, and in which case then, the MIS is, because they have to focus on so much different functionality, there will always be a bit of a jack of all trades and master at none potentially. So do you see that's where you will continue to sort of build on this sort of niche area?
I think, yeah, for us, I mean, you're right. They, ISAMs do, well, you're right. They all, I mean, I know particularly ISAMs have an admissions module, but we have schools who use ISAMs and Admissions Plus. So yeah, I think that's the exciting thing about the free market, right? We don't live in Russia, you know, it's beautiful. It's any man, any woman can go and have a crack. And
Yeah.
you know, there's nothing stopping you know, anyone building a rocket, an admissions rocket. And so that's what keeps us going. You know, we're just trying to build the best rocket we can. And you know, that's I guess the fun, isn't it? You and that's what makes you try and do it faster and better. And but yeah, I think as you say, they've got other important things to look at. And I suppose it's about picking the battles. And the beautiful thing, I think, or it's not necessarily beautiful, but integrations seems to me to be where MISs are going to win, is where they get also, although they've got bigger ships, as long as if they've got really strong integrations and people know what they offer and they're best in class, if they can say, okay, we do have an admissions module, but actually you can use ours, it's good. And you can also, if you do want, you could use admissions plus, because it's basically like using us anyway, because all the data floods in anyway, and they've got a great rocket. So use us for your core product. You know, we're the most important thing that we're delivering, but you can use admissions plus for this niche admissions thing that, you know. So I think integrations for us are key, and that's and I think they'll be key for all suppliers of software, in the edtech space.
Yeah, it's interesting. In the MES space, there's definitely two trains of thought. So you got some people, and I was talking to Ali before from Bromcom, and he'll go one-stop shop. You know, he believes in the one-stop shop, and basically, as an MIS, you should deliver everything. You know, well, not everything, but majority of things around children, I guess, and the data that swims. You know, goes between them. You got then other sort of leaders as well. So James Witherall a bit there in that space, and probably the same with Richard as well from ScholarPack. And their view is actually, you know, in some ways you want a bit of a best of breed, you know, and actually when you speak to Mats as well, so we've spoken to loads of Mats on different subjects, and actually you get a balance there as well. So some Mats are going, you know, we want to consolidate, we want to reduce the cost. So if we can get everything within one solution, that's great. And then others who will go, no, absolutely, we want the best possible solutions for every scenario. So, you know, they'll be much more, you know, important to you. And it's interesting because I to be honest with you, I sort of swing between the two, because you sort of go, best of breed could potentially, if you're not careful as a school or a MAT, could create quite an expensive sort of overall system, because, you know, you're buying the best of everything. And at the same time, you know, unless the MIS sort of subsidized almost, where they created a platform and said, actually, if you're not using our admission system, you're using that one over there, then fine, you know, and we'll take some of that off. Part of me feels I prefer the platform idea, but what do you think? Obviously, you're going to go for best of breed, but
well, it's fascinating, and I guess time will tell. What I think is interesting is, like, with you know, Slack, for example. I don't know if you use Slack or if okay. Am I being silly?
No. Slack's really good. Loads of people love Slack.
All right, sorry. No, because some people don't use it. And I heard, the other day, you know, I read that Microsoft were getting in trouble for, like, ripping it. You know, they're ripping it in Teams, and Slack are, like, obviously, you know, probably got a lawyer's letter over to them. But I think there's, and, you know, with we're using Zoom, and there is Google Hangouts. We both, you know, probably have Google or Microsoft Teams, but we choose to use Zoom because it's better. And yeah, I pay a little bit of money to Zoom, but I like it, and it works really well. And actually, it makes sense to use it. In the grand scheme of things, it's still great value. And actually, the time saving and the quality of service that I'm giving my that we're gonna, hopefully it'll be a better experience watching this. But Slack messaging's better, and we would say the admissions experience, not just for the administrator but for the parent, and the parent, each student, for one of the things that got us going with this was, an extra student in your sixth form is going to be worth £4,000 per year. So getting the recruitment right is a really important part, and getting a better mousetrap, getting a better system to get the students into the school, well, that's worth investing in. And so yeah, I think I personally think that actually being hyper specialized is really good. And I don't know though, if you can do everything and you can do it really high quality, then that's obviously even better. because you're offering more, but it's just hard to do. It's just hard.
I think you hit the nail on the head as well when you said value. I think you're absolutely right. Like you say, the extra child in the sixth form, or reducing down the cost of bringing these children and effectively integrating them into the MIS and entering the data, and the better relationships with the parents, because they get a better experience, so they enjoy working with the school more, or wanting to be part more of the school. I think you're right. I think it is about the value. If you can create the niche which adds more value, you're hopefully onto a winner. There's and I think it's like we said earlier on, I don't think the MISs could add as much value as you can, because they're focusing on lots of other things, which is rightly so, as they should be. But,
yeah.
Interesting. Cool.
Yeah.
There you go. More value. That's what you're bringing. So where would you see your business in the next? So it's been now 4 years. Got about 300 plus schools. Is that right?
Yeah.
So where do you see it? Where do you see it being in the next 3 to 5 years? So next 3 years, where would you like to see your business?
That's a good question. Hopefully doing even sort of better admissions. To that. It sounds obvious, but each year, even doing it for 4 years, it's a cycle. So each year and there are different elements to it. So we've just been through the enrollment phase. So much to even we can improve on. The integration with Sims. Okay, so really good. Okay, how can we make it better? Okay, at the moment it's Sims 7 we're mainly doing it with, but it's going to be Sims 8, so we'll need to develop that. Okay, well, what about the other MISs? We need to add all of them in. Okay, we've got a couple of them, but we need them all, really, right? Yeah. So I think there's just so much to do in terms of getting deeper and deeper into the admissions puzzle and providing a better system for schools. There's so much opportunity just to improve it. And then, the rest, I guess, will take care of itself. In terms of, I think that's it really. And then obviously, try and, the UK's got enough schools, and we've got one school in America, but it's a lone ranger. I think a couple international schools, but I think there's enough work to be done in the UK to try and provide the best. It comes back to that. Do you go and try and develop something in America where you've got to change all the dates, change all the zip codes, change all and then you've got grades instead of years, and you go and you start thinking, actually, no. You've got to pick your battles. It sounds simple. It sounds it's the same thing. It's just a form. It's just a system for admissions, but it's not. I wish it was, but it ends up you just open a can of worms. And so, I think focusing on making the system better for our existing customers, listening to them, I guess is a bit cliche, but just trying to improve the system, and yeah, see where it all goes. Yeah,
That's really good. So if there was something you wanted everyone to, any schools that were looking to this, then you would like them to contact you, just in some ways to listen to them and see how their processes work. Because it sounds like you come from the angle which I actually adore. Actually, I think it's brilliant. Which is that you're passionate about making the emissions right. It's not so much about because obviously the commercials are important, but ultimately the commercials will just come because everyone's loving the environment and the experience they're getting from your product.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, no, and I think it. Yeah, I think that's the key. That's what we learned from. That's what I think is the key is keeping it super niche, keeping it really niche and hyper focused. But who knows?
It'll be good. I can tell. I think sometimes you just speak to people and you have this bare feeling about how successful they can be, and I think there's definitely no doubt about it. You're definitely one of those in that sort of top area of people who obviously are quite passionate about what they do and really care about it, which is it's actually a big. I think it's over half of what you need to be. There's obviously all the commercial stuff, which I'm sure you're good at as well, which we haven't talked about. But I think the passion thing is a very, very important piece, for sure.
Well, the nice thing about admissions is that it's a really clear business proposition for the schools as well, because it's all about time and it's all about efficiency and it's about getting more students in, and it's really, for them, it's a really clear business idea. The ULAS side of things and the careers and then the marketing from the employers, we were slipping into competing against CSR programs, which is subsidized obviously charities, and it was really sort of hard to evidence a return on investment.
Yeah.
Whereas this is just really beautiful because it's you invest this and what you get out is this, and it's just super clear. There's no soft stuff. It's just get this, save time, more students. Great.
Yeah, no, I agree. If you've got a simple value proposition, which is effectively saying a really clear value proposition, which is really easy to understand, yeah, you definitely get the customers will, or schools will fully, and if they can easily get it, then they're more likely to purchase. When people have a very confused value proposition, there's normally a point when they struggle to sell their product for sure. So you're right there for sure. Brilliant, absolutely fantastic. Well, that's all the questions I have.
All right.
Unless you want to talk about MIS anymore,
No.
which I'm assuming you don't.
Yeah. No, I mean it's been really fun, and thanks so much for having us.
No, definitely thank you.
And yeah, no, the MIS it is a really interesting time to be in the market. I mean, just obviously we're not an MIS, we're just a minnow, but watching the Sims, when that came up for sale, that it's fascinating, and hopefully it'll be interesting. Well, whatever happens, it'll be interesting, and I think I think everyone's watching it very closely, and I bet the other MISs they're interested to know what happens and who's going to take it on, and the next 3 years will they'll be very interesting.
Yeah, they definitely are, and I think they're starting to act as well and change. And I think there's an element which for you guys, I think when if the sim sale goes through, or when it goes through, should I say, is probably more the point. But when it goes through, whoever becomes the new custodian, I think they're going to need to open their arms up to the partners, all fairness, because the ecosystem that they have or could have even stronger will be very, very important to their future success as well.
Yeah.
So I think you guys are going to become very important.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Yeah.
Well, at least to say thanks very much for your time. It's been